Welcome to another episode of The Latest with Maya. Today, I am very excited to have a conversation with Allison Norlian and Kody Leibowitz, the co-founders of the production company BirdMine. Their new documentary, Meandering Scars, premiered at the Dances with Film Festival in Los Angeles last month. Thank you so much for being on my show. I'm so excited to be talking with you.
Thanks for having us, Maya.
Thanks, Maya. We're excited to talk to you too.
Um, so how did you meet the inspiration of Meandering Scars, Erica Bogan, and why was it important to you to bring her story to the screen?
Okay, so Kody, you want me to start? Okay. So just to give you some background, Maya, Kody and I have known each other since we were interns in college, and we both became reporters. So we are journalists who spent, I guess, between the two of us, nearly 2 decades in television newsrooms as reporters and anchors. And we always dreamed of telling longer form stories like documentaries. And so fast forward to 2020, Kody and I decided to start our company, BirdMine. When we started BirdMine, we didn't know we didn't have a first documentary idea. We just knew we wanted to tell stories about underrepresented communities. To give you some insight, when I was a journalist and now as a filmmaker, I focus a lot on the disability community because my older sister is profoundly disabled and it really inspired my entire career. And Kody is a former investigative journalist, and I'll let him tell you a little bit more about himself when I'm done. But we both really, throughout our careers, focused on underrepresented communities, wanting to create a more compassionate world. And so we knew going into creating BirdMine that we wanted our first story to be about an underrepresented community. We just didn't know necessarily what that story was going to be. And so Kody and I decided, let's do the work. Let's create a series that, we're journalists. We know how to put together stories. We know how to tell stories. Let's basically take our experience and create a series that we'll put online on our YouTube page, on our social media, to give people an idea of the kinds of stories that we tell and how we tell them. And so we decided our first series was going to be highlighting people with disabilities in the fitness industry. And so we were introduced to Paralympians, weightlifting champions, people with disabilities in CrossFit and making an impact in the Spartan community, obstacle course racing. And that's how we were introduced to Erica Bogan. And we're doing the pre-interviews for this series, this online series that we plan to create. And so I was interviewing Erica, and I'm like, oh, you'd be perfect for this series. And at the very end, we're planning our next actual interview. And she very casually, sort of, without even thinking of it was important, mentions, by the way, I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. And, in news, we like to say that she buried the lead. And I said, I was just, really floored. And I was like, Erica, that's amazing. And then she started telling me, of course she was doing it to challenge herself because through her own mental health journey, she realized challenging herself physically really helped her mentally. But she was doing this because she herself struggled with suicidal thoughts and mental health, situations. And she had a lot of friends with disabilities die by suicide. And she wanted to do this. She wanted to climb this mountain to spread awareness about suicide and mental health struggles in the disability community. And really that hooked me. I was just floored that she would, want to do something so challenging, not for herself, but for her friends and for everyone struggling with mental health and suicidal thoughts. And so after we had this conversation, I called Kody and I said, Kody, I think I found our first documentary. I don't know if Kody, I kind of talked a lot, so I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I think you summed it up perfectly. It was just it was a blessing in disguise at that point that we found Erica and we found her story, and it's just an incredible journey to be a part of.
Oh, wow, that's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you hope audiences take away from the film?
We hope for a kinder place, right? One that's more understanding, one that um, understands that folks with disabilities are just like everyone else, right? We want folks to really get a better sense of what it's like living in America with a disability, what it's like not just from an individual standpoint, but from a systemic and structural standpoint of what it's like to be disabled in America, and how we can better treat people in that sense. Because really, what we learned throughout this film and what we learned throughout filming is that it's not just individually how you feel about yourself, especially acquiring a disability, especially in the way in which Erica acquired her disability, but how society views you and how society um, and our systems that are at play view disability. And so we tried to have that conversation, showing it through research, showing it through the day-to-day life of Erica, um, and what her and her friends are trying to accomplish to raise that awareness in order to, lessen the continual mental health illnesses and the suicidal ideation and suicidal thoughts that are really plaguing the disability community. Um, how can we lessen that? How can we continue to show that life matters? We all have our differences. Uh, Disabled folks need to have a seat at the table, and not only just a seat, but lead when it comes to research around disability and mental health. Um, Lead when it comes to autonomy, and lead when it comes to um, disability in America and the role in which we play.
Yeah, I that was exactly what Kody said. I mean, I completely agree. Really, we want to change the way the world views disability and create a more compassionate, accessible world. And I think with through Meandering Scars, we hope people with disabilities and people struggling with mental health issues feel seen, feel heard. I think that's a huge aspect of what we hope through Meandering Scars, because even, a personal example as somebody who grew up in a home where I lived with my sister who has, a developmental disability. My grandmother had MS, so she used a wheelchair full time. And my, entire young life, I didn't feel seen. I didn't ever see anyone like my family members. And I felt it's not just the people with disabilities who feel the inaccessibility of society, it's their families too. And so I really, through this film, I hope that others feel seen, and it creates a movement to create real change, so our society becomes more accessible and compassionate, because truly accessibility doesn't just help people with disabilities, it helps everyone. So that's what I hope Meandering Scars ends up doing.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, I'm very grateful that I got the chance to watch the documentary. And it's amazing. I loved it.
Thank you. That means a lot, Maya. Thank you so much.
It really does. Thank you, Maya.
Yeah. Yeah, so do you have a special process for deciding which projects you move forward with?
You want to
That's a
go,
great question.
Cody?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of collaboration with Allison and I. We've known each other for 15 years now, and so we trust each other. And trust is built over time and over patience and over many, many conversations, right? And so for us, when it comes to moving forward with the project, I think first and foremost is I trust Allison. She's one of my best friends. She's my business partner. She's my co-director. And so for me, if she comes to me with an idea, especially when it came to meandering scars, especially when it comes to stories around the disability community, I put my full trust in her because um, she's brilliant and she knows what she's talking about and has a really good instinct when it comes to stories. We also, so we'll go through that. There's times where we'll sit, and I think it was a couple months ago, we'll sit and we'll just talk and debate ideas, right? If there's something that's not like for certain, like I think we should do this because of A, B, and C. I think we need to do a story on climate change, or I think we need to do a story on the effect of trauma and how that not only affects the individual but affects the community. We'll sit there and we'll have those conversations and then make a determination on which story or stories or films we should move forward with. Um, and that's not just documentary, that's a narrative too. Like Allison wrote a brilliant script that we turned into a short film about her sister and mother, about her mother's advocacy for her sister. It's called 13. And Allison came to me and said, I want to do this. We're gonna make this movie. And I said, let's do it. There's no pushback because it's Allison and I trust her with everything. And so, we will work on projects either solo, by ourselves. We'll work on projects with other friends or other creatives. And then we'll come back and meet and say, okay, I think this is going to be a BirdMine project because of this particular reason and the um, social and societal change we want to pursue within this particular topic.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. Exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah. So what was the biggest challenge in bringing meandering scars to life?
Oh man, there were many challenges. I guess I can start. You know, I think when you start a documentary and really any project, but specifically documentary, you sort of have an idea of where it's going to go. But with documentaries, the story often changes. And so the story, we had to pivot many times filming Meandering Scars. I mean, for various reasons, including the pandemic. We started the process of creating Meandering Scars at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. And we had the plan of climbing the mountain. I get it was at the end of 2021, right, Kody?
It
Am
was
I
supposed
remember?
to be in September of 2021, so
Right.
it was like a 2 year timeline for us initially.
Exactly. And then, the Delta variant kind of began, and because of the that variant and Erica's disability and some other things, we had to she postponed the climb. And so because of that variant, we ended up postponing Kilimanjaro. She also sustained an injury that year, during one of her Spartan races. And so you invest all this time and energy thinking it's going to go a certain way, and then you have to pivot. And so we've pivoted many, many times throughout this process. And then also on the mountain, something happens that I'm sure Maya, from watching the film, but I'm not going to say because it's a spoiler. But something happens that changes a bit of the trajectory of the film. And so it's learning to sort of be able to pivot when something happens, even if you sort of have this understanding of where the film is going to go. Yeah, I would say like that was a major aspect of a major challenge. And then, of course, filming on a mountain was very, very difficult. So that took a lot of pre-planning.
Yeah, Maya, it's tough. You go into these films, or even for us before this, you go in as a reporter and you start thinking, okay, here's the theory of what's going to happen. Here's our belief of what may happen with this. And then you start doing your interviews, your pre-interviews. You just start filming and you take your camera and you're just embedded with a group of people, and the story just completely flips on its head at that point, right? It 180s. And so for us, like one of the big changes that we had was, as Allison said, was when we had to postpone filming for us, but Erica postponed climbing in 2021. So that extended the timeline for us. And through that, we were just going to initially just film and finish on the mountain, right? The story was done after Erica climbed, and we were going to get into post production and start editing and put the film out. We sat with that decision, and through Allison and I talking, we wanted to further the story. We're like, okay, let's invest as much time into this and tell the best story, because we want to find out, where is Erica after the climb, right? Like, your life doesn't just end on the high. Sometimes it does, right? But there's peaks and valleys, and it can meander at times, right? And so we wanted to see where Erica was mentally after climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, whether she makes it to the top or not. For Erica, it's super important. For us as filmmakers, we wanted to know, where are you? Do you want to continue your advocacy? Do you want to continue um, your role as a life coach when it comes to helping others, not only just your friends, but other wheelers and other folks within the disability community, understanding their own mental health journey at that point? Do you want to continue um, being on social media, right? Or do you want to just retire and sort of proverbially pass the baton to someone else to continue the generations of advocacy around the disability community, right? We have so many great and fantastic advocates that are out there that are not in this film in particular, but have, sort of, led us to this moment. And so where is Erica going to be, and where is she going to be mentally at that point? And so we really wanted to explore that, as long as it was okay with Erica and she was on board, because she wanted to show it all. She wanted to have folks understand what it's like to be disabled in America and live with severe mental health, and what that all encapsulates: the good, the bad, in between, the highs that are very high for Erica, and the lows that are very low.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. Um, so what lessons from your childhood have most impacted your worldview?
Wow.
Wow, that's a deep question.
Yeah. Allison, do you want to start us off, or do you want me to?
You can start, Kody.
Okay. So, life lessons from my childhood. I think part of it was my mother. So there was one instance that comes to mind where um, she was just involved in a relational violence incident. And it was not physical in that moment, but it was verbal. And she was being yelled at by um, a partner of hers. And so her and I left the house. I was five, four, five, six, something around that. And we just started driving. And it was dark out, and she pulled into a parking lot, and she looked into the stars, and she said, "Your ancestors are looking down on you right here." Um, and she's talking about, in that moment, she's talking about family members who didn't survive the Holocaust. Um, Mom was very spiritual. I don't know if she was religious, but she was very spiritual. And she had said in that moment, moments after that, you know, you and I would have survived the Holocaust because we have blonde hair and blue eyes. And we're talking about in the 90s. So language and framing is completely different. But what she meant in that moment, that I've come to understand, and I sort of understood just at a young age, was the privilege in which we shared because of who we are, because of uh, the color of our skin, because of color of our eyes or our hair color, and where we could assimilate. And so she always she knew what privilege stood for, and she knew what our role was, and she knew, the fact that because of that privilege, we had to advocate for others. Constantly throughout my childhood, she would have me go to a church. I'm Jewish. We didn't belong to a synagogue, but it's our culture. That's who we are. But she wanted me to understand other cultures, and she wanted me to understand other religions, knowing that I'm Jewish, but getting a better sense of the world around us, because there's not one person that is better than another person, right? That we are as different as people as we can be because of our surroundings, because of our past, because of the generational traumas and generational violences that our families and our ancestors had to deal with. Um, but in a lot of ways, we're very similar, right? We are so similar in the fact that, we have all these different differences, but you meet people and you can have a conversation about anything. And it makes life so just beautiful and fun, right? So um those are just little lessons just from my mom, and just understanding who she was, to be able to, get to the point where I'm at today. She's no longer with us. She passed away when I was 17. But it's some of those lessons that I took into journalism. It's some of those lessons that we take into the type of films that we want to tell, um, to show that yes, there's a lot of differences, but there's a lot of similarities. And I'll stop talking in a second because it's very long-winded. But like in this film, there's a lot that we want to show people about Erica and who she is, because Erica brings a lot to the table. Not just the relational domestic violence that she undertook, not just her disability, not just her mental health, but that she's a mother, that she's a friend, that she's a life coach, that she is involved in sports, that she likes to be outdoors, that she goes climbing, that she will do a trip on a whim. She will be the first person to answer a phone call if you call, and do check-ins with you to make sure that you're okay. And she'll put herself and her children and her friends above her own mental health in that moment. And so that's a lot of things that people can relate to and sort of get a better understanding, because you may not see yourself fully in Erica, but you can see yourself partly in Erica. And we hope that that sort of changes that attitude and mindset when it comes to, seeing not only just our film, but any film in general, that you can relate to people and subjects and characters.
First, I have to say, Kody, that was beautiful. And I never heard that story about your mom, Kody's mom, and about the stars. So I just heard that for the first time too.
We broke news today.
And it like I started feeling myself tearing up while I was listening to you, but that's because I'm also an emotional mess all the time. So anyway, so I mean, your question is really profound, Maya. Especially my childhood really is the reason it inspired my entire professional life and career, and obviously who I am, specifically, and my mother. I mean, I wrote a film about my mom and my sister because they had such an immense impact on who I am. So specifically, like I said earlier, my mom was a single mother, and my older sister, she's 6 years older than me. Her name is Rebecca. She's profoundly developmentally disabled. And growing up in that environment, it was that life was normal for me. And but I quickly learned at an early age how the world viewed my family, and how inaccessible the world is for people like my family. And so just similar, or not similar, but a story that happened to me when I was in second grade. So I guess around 7 years old, that was a pivotal year in my life. I experienced the first time so I'm Jewish as well. And it's the first time I experienced anti-Semitism. And it's the first time that I lost a friend because of my sister. And to make that story short, I was teased in my class by two little girls for being Jewish, and I didn't understand and went home and had a talk with my mom where she sat me down and said, some people are not going to like you because of your heritage and your ethnicity, and you have to be a little bit careful with who you share that part of you with. And when it came to my sister, I had met a new friend in school and she came over my house. And I remember we were in my den, the living room, playing Barbies. And my sister was upstairs watching videos. And my sister is vocal, but she's not, she's nonverbal. And so she was making noises. And my friend, I remember, like, was asking, what is that? And I just said, oh, it's my sister. And a few minutes later, my mom brought Becky down for lunch, and Becky came into the living room. And like I said, and Becky's she is ambulatory, so she walks. And so she came in and she was, talking and talking as being vocal and vocalizing, I should say. And the little girl, my new friend, got scared and started crying and asked to leave. And I never talked to her again. So these are moments, defining moments in a kid's life. And so I just, from that moment on, I really, there was obviously years in between where there were struggles with my identity and with, being Jewish, and struggles with um, my having a sister with a disability. But really, what I learned from my mother as an advocate, my mother was my mother, without even realizing, was an advocate. She just wanted her daughter to have the same life as every other child. And I watched my mom just do all of these amazing things growing up, just to ensure that Becky was seen and that she was heard. And that, for me too, that I was, and that we believed and knew that we were we deserved to exist too in this world. And that really sort of, I took, as an adult, it took me a long time to get to this place. But once I became an adult, I realized that I wanted to change the way the world viewed disability. And I wanted to take what the world told me was wrong with me. So the fact that I have a disabled sister, or that I came from a single parent household, or that I'm Jewish. And I wanted to flip it on its head and use it as my superpower. And that's why I became a journalist. Because I wanted to change, like I said, the way the world viewed disability. I wanted to create a more compassionate world. And so my mother, I mean, I guess Kody and I come from good stock. We had great moms. And so, they inspired so much in our lives. And I wouldn't be who I am without, having that upbringing and having my mom.
Oh, wow. I think those are amazing lessons, and I'm sorry you had to, go through all that. I'm Jewish as well, and my mom is a single mom, so
So you relate.
yeah. Yeah. Um, what is the biggest obstacle you've overcome?
Well, I mean, really, I kind of said it in that last comment I made. It was the biggest obstacle I think I've overcome is taking what the world said was wrong with me and making it my superpower. Because for a long time I didn't know it was my superpower. I just internalized what the world told me was wrong with me, and struggled daily because of it. So I think being able to reframe that narrative and realize that, like I said, I deserve to exist in all of these identities and all of who I am, and my sister deserves to exist, and yeah, and I think that's really what has, that's the obstacle that I've been able to overcome, and now it's not just surviving, it's thriving. So
Yeah, that's a difficult answer, a really or a difficult question, a really great question to ask, Maya. I, to add on to what you said, Allison, I think it's, where do you go from surviving trauma and how do you move forward. And so for me, it's where do I go after my mom passes away when I'm 17, almost 18 at that point? And how do you continue to survive? Because it's a loved one and you're in whatever, um, messy family lifestyle that you're in at that point, you're still there with your mother, and you're still there with your sisters and your loved ones, who are helping to raise you. But where do you go and how do you survive after losing a loved one at such a young age? Um, and so for me, I think it took a long time to sort of answer that because it took years, college sort of distracts from that, and meeting new friends and moving, and then getting into journalism finally and getting into a reporting job finally. I can put my attention to other people's stories and other issues that are out there and hold people accountable and hold account to power, and the injustices that are happening in the world and just the um, disinformation and misinformation and illegalities, and immorality, when it comes to public trust, right? And so you sort of still have that lingering aspect of how are you surviving? You're surviving, but you're sort of delaying the conversations that you have to have internally about how are you feeling, after your mom passed away. And so that took years, and that was a lot of, I mean, therapy would have been smart. That would have been the smart thing to do. I did not do that initially. I mean, I'll say initially I did. I went to therapy right after my mom passed away. That didn't really take long, but I did more internalizing and self-reflection, um, and then got to a really good place. And then through actually this film and the topics that we talked about and just the the post-production aspect of it, which was long and strenuous and emotional, and then rewatching this film, I don't know, 50, 100 times, and hearing similar stories, it got to a point where I'm like, okay, I need to, solve some of these issues that are still lingering. And how do I go from what Allison said, um, surviving to thriving at
Mhm.
that point? And so some of those questions are still, out there, but it's a, it's a journey, right? It's, you start hitting milestones and markers, and it's going to be 19 years this year since my mom passed away. And so, you start looking at how far have you come from that, from the traumatic aspect, traumatic state, and where are you now? And then how do you continue to move forward, and not only just move forward, but how do you continue to you know to live and survive and thrive?
Yeah. I'm so sorry to hear about your mom.
Listen, it's one of those things that, allows you to relate to a lot of people, because unfortunately, we don't all get to live until we're 80 and our parents pass away at 100. I wish that were the case. That'd be amazing, right? Less
Yeah.
trauma in this world, but um, it's a way that I can relate to people. And it's an ability to, continue to um, tell my mom's story, who she was, and just the lasting impact not only that she had on me and my sisters, for the years that we were able to spend with her, but just the lessons that she taught us in that short period of time that we can, you know, bring to the world.
And
Yeah.
you're her legacy, and she would be very proud of you.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, so, what small things bring you joy on a daily basis?
Oh man. Um, well, I can tell you an actual literal small thing is my cat Kale. She brings me so much joy, and animals in general bring me so much joy. And so did my cat Emmy, who passed away last year, who I miss very much. So I have to mention her. But yeah, the my kale gives me joy every single day. Reading, I actually wake up early every day to read before I start my day because I love to read. It helps me with my own mental health. And exercise and fitness bring me joy, and I try to exercise every day because it doesn't just help me physically, it helps me mentally.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. Working out, exercise, it's not only physical health, it's good mental health too. It gets the body and mind moving at such an early morning. 'Cause I'll go in 5:30 every morning to go work out. Playing sports. Last weekend I got to play tennis for the first time in like 12 to 15 years, and I got my butt kicked by Allison's husband multiple times. So that was fun. But just playing sports in general. I try to play basketball once every 2 weeks. I've just started getting into pickleball. On a kickball team this year too. So I just try to stay active. My dog, just seeing how goofy she is, because she's very goofy. She's very lovable. So that's a couple small things. Yeah, just I don't know, walking outside, just sometimes just going on a walk, on a stroll, just listening to a podcast or some music, and just enjoying the world around you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of, yeah, just finding the small things that bring you a lot of joy. That's something my mom has actually taught me, that there's lots of joy in the small things.
That's for
What
sure.
about that is true. What about you, Maya? What are some of the small things for you that bring you joy?
Um, I mean, my dog, she's also very funny and brings me, yeah, a lot of joy and always makes me laugh. Um, and whenever I can, when it's not too hot out, I love like going outside and going for a walk. And I love listening to music and like watching one of my favorite shows, or if there's a show I'm binge watching at the moment.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
I can relate with the binge watching shows. I should have mentioned my go-to sort of relax, decompress show, The Office. That brings me a lot of Michael Scott brings me a lot of joy.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and yeah, whenever I get to spend like spending time with my mom and my sister, and like whenever I get to like talk with friends, that also brings me a lot of joy.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, those relationships. I mean, you without them, how do we get through from the day to day, right? It's so much joy just to be able to talk to parents and family, and
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so if you had the opportunity to put a message on a billboard for everyone to see, what would it be?
Man.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Um, man, I think I need like a year to like really reflect on this.
There's so many. I'll
Sure.
throw out one. One would be humanity first.
Yeah.
Let's look into each other's humanity and see each other, hear each other, talk to one another, um, just be in those moments, be present, right? I mean, it's those little joys, like you said, Maya, just being able to talk to family and friends. Um, Sometimes some of the best conversations I have are just with random people, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's at the gym or playing sports with people that I haven't met before, and I just showed up and played basketball with them. Um, People at a movie theater, right? Like throughout the festival, and just being able to talk to new folks. And you start seeing the humanity between one another, and I think that sort of resonates that with all the differences which are important, we're very similar, and we can be with one another and talk to one another and sort of learn together and grow together and laugh and cry and we can start putting each other first, instead of being divided.
Yeah. I think I would say something similar, but with the addition of adding compassion. I think a lot of our problems stem from people's lack of compassion, whether it be for each other, for animals, for our world, our environment. And I think we live in a very individualistic society. And in some aspects, that's fine. You should focus on yourself and what you want to accomplish and strive for. But I wish I could put on a billboard something that would encourage people to just look around and try to put themselves in the shoes of others, and not just including humans, but including our animal friends and our world. Because it is possible to, I believe it is possible to live in a world where we see each other and we help each other and we all thrive. I don't think that, I think sometimes we are living in a world that tries to create a reality where, some succeed and others don't because there's not enough resources, we're told. I think there are enough resources, and I think we all can thrive and succeed, but we need compassion for each other and for every living thing. And so I don't know what that quote would look like. That's a lot of words for a billboard.
You just wrote a novel. You're like, okay, hi, just put the QR code, and then someone looks at it, and it's just a big poster board novel that you put together.
Yeah.
So Allison's isn't words. Hers are just a QR code.
Yeah, mine's a QR code. So I will try to condense that, and I'll think of that for our next conversation, Maya. Maybe I'll have condensed it for you.
Yeah.
A year later, on our next project, Maya will come back and be like, Allison, so what do you want to put on a billboard? You're like, it's still the QR code, still working through it.
I love that. Yeah, I love those messages. Yeah. I am pop culture obsessed, and I go in stages of shows that I cannot stop watching. Is there a show that you are currently obsessed with?
Oh man.
I'm excited for Stranger Things season 5. I can't wait for that to come out. Just like you, Maya, and just like Allison, I'll go into stages where I just want to watch something. And so I'll put on like Parks and Rec. And so that's been my like go-to show where I just have to rewatch it because the writing is brilliant, the acting is brilliant, it's hilarious. I loved I don't know, the live television like sports and everything. I'll go to, so less pop culture in that sense. A good documentary I'll keep throwing on and on and on. Like I'll rewatch the 13th. I'll rewatch what is it called, Allison? I think I'm getting the name wrong, but is it Three Identical Strangers?
Oh, Three Identical Strangers. I thought you were going to say Meandering Scars.
I'll put on Meandering Scars 20 times a day, and then I'll realize I'm not getting any work done. And so we don't have our next project yet because I just keep watching the film so much.
That's so funny. That's hilarious. Sorry, did I cut you off, Kody?
No. All you.
Okay. So I mentioned this earlier. I rewatch The Office constantly, and right now my husband and I are rewatching I forget what it's called, but it's the edition where you watch the entirety of each episode because they cut it down from what they film, from when they film it. So it's like originally, what's it called, Sean? My husband just walked in. Superfan. Oh, they're called the Superfan episodes.
Oh, the one on Peacock.
Yeah, they're on
Peacock. They put together, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like the episodes are instead of like 28, 30 minutes, they're slightly longer and it shows the sort of extended cut of what they've because they cut out a bunch so it fits because they have to add the commercials and all this stuff for when it was on network. But so we're watching the Superfan episodes of The Office. We're watching House, which is like a random older show that we've been binging. And then our go-tos are always Mad Men. We love Mad Men, and The Sopranos. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just finished watching The Waterfront on Netflix, which
Okay.
is really good. Um and then I have like a long list of comfort shows that I just rotate between.
Mhm.
So recently I've gone back to The New Adventures of Old Christine. And
Oh wow.
I've been rewatching that because that is just one of my favorites. And yeah, I yesterday I actually did not have a great day, so I was watching The New Adventures of Old Christine like all day, and there's one scene that was just constantly playing in my head that just was making me uh crack up. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's important, Maya. I mean, that's sort of some of the messaging. To do a little bit of a plug here with Meandering Scars, but that's sort of the messaging that comes out of it, right? It's like you're trying to find what what makes you happy, what keeps you going, right? Um, and sometimes it's going outdoors, sometimes it's going on a stroll outside, sometimes it's that comfort show that you watch. And rewatching that same scene over and over again because it's hilarious and it makes you not just laugh in the moment, but remember it takes you back to why you watched that show in the first place and the good memories of your childhood and growing up. And so, you know, that's important. And that's why I love this question that you asked because it's like, okay, what are your comfort shows? Like, what's going to bring you that sense of joy where you can just go back and like either go, ooh, this is inquisitive. I want to rewatch this so I can understand it from a writing perspective and how they got to this, or like, oh, this is a great documentary. I want to live up to this. Or it's a show and you're just like, I want to laugh today.
Yeah.
I just want to sit on the couch. I want to have comfort food and just crack up for 2.5 hours and not think about anything.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, actually, what is like your go-to show or movie that you find yourself quoting all the time?
The Office.
It probably would be Parks and Rec that I'm quoting. Go to yeah, it would probably be Parks and Rec where I'll just like text like something random to some friends
Mhm.
and they'd be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'll be like, okay, fine, I'll send it in GIF form and
Yeah.
send you a meme just from the show.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love Parks and Rec. I think my go-to shows that I always quote are The New Adventures of Old Christine, Will and Grace, and Psych.
Oh, I love
Uh,
Sight. That's a
Yeah,
great show.
that
yeah.
was your go-to for a while, Allison.
Yeah, we binged that during the pandemic. It was so good. I should watch that again.
Yeah, I was also rewatch. I was. That's another comfort show that I just go back and rewatch episodes of. And The New Adventures of Old Christine was a pandemic binge watch, so that has like very strong memories
Mhm.
attached to it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I was, there was one thing from The New Adventures of Old Christine that I texted one of my best friends, and he's never seen the show, so he responded saying, "Why do I feel like this is an inside joke I'm not in on?"
That's funny.
So, yeah.
Well, now he'll have to watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I told him.
that's hilarious.
Yeah. Um, so, what is something people are always surprised to learn about you?
That I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Honestly, that has become the thing. Yeah, people
Yeah.
always like they're like, "What?"
I think so too for me because it's one of those things like, wait, you did that? It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, you didn't send a crew up there. No, we were the crew.
we were the
It was
crew. We
it was
we
us
followed
and
Erica.
yeah, it was less than three other people that went up there. Like, no way. I go, all right,
Yeah,
well, watch the film.
yeah. You'll see us.
Yeah. I love that.
Mm.
So I just have a few more questions for you, if that works.
Of
Sure.
course.
Um, so if you had a warning label, what would yours say?
A warning label. Um, wow. Mine would probably warn uh that I'm very sensitive. Very sensitive human being here. Um, and it would probably my grandmother always used to tell me I had a hole in my chin because when I eat, sometimes it ends up everywhere. So that's probably something people are going to be like, wow, learning about me now. But yeah, also has hole in chin.
Do not talk to him without food.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, so that one or um very sleepy after 10 p.m.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
and I get
cranky.
for
May
me,
not, yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
me too. Like it's just been like I'll have conversations or my girlfriend will be talking to me and I'll just start like winding down. She's like, okay, you don't want to have conversations right now. I'm like,
Yeah.
look at the clock, please.
Yeah, yeah. Brain stops functioning after 5 p.m.
Yeah, I like
Mhm.
those. Um, so what genre of movie would your life story be told as?
A dark comedy. That's probably mine.
I'll go with slapstick comedy, but no one knows that it's funny. So it's just like just a bunch of humor or at least written humor, and then people are watching this going, "Wait, did you just say a joke?" And it's
It's
like
the British version of The Office.
it's just so dry but
Yeah.
slapstick, and then people don't understand that it's a joke, and I'm just sitting there laughing the whole time, and it's just like, "Wait, is it?" And then like, "Wait, why is he laughing at his own jokes?" That's the movie.
Those. I feel like mine would probably be a dark comedy, but I always have wanted my life story to be both a rom-com and a musical.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love that. I love that.
Thank you. So yeah, I think a mix of all of those.
Perfect.
We'll have to start writing it. We'll have to get a um some great musicians to start putting the musical together for you. The Life of Maya, the latest with Maya,
Yeah.
the musical.
I would love that. Yeah. Um, I love inspiring and motivational quotes. And this week, my favorite quotation is your scars show what you've been through, but they also show that you made it through.
Hmm.
Is there a quotation that has inspired you lately?
I just have to
There's
say,
one.
oh, go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Kate.
Allison.
No,
Go
I was
ahead.
going to mention that quote sound. It's, it sounds so similar to our film. I mean, it's really that's what so much so much of our film is kind of about that. So anyway, sorry, go ahead, Kody.
Yeah, I was going to say that's such a beautiful quote. I think one thing, it's not something that's in particular today. It's just something that's, sticks with me often. Is this quote is go in the world and do well, but go into the world and do good. So you
Mm,
go into the world and you put your all out there, but not only just doing well for yourself, but you're doing good for others. And it was something that my grandmother just gave me. It's funny because it was a graduation gift magnet, and she just gave it to me. But it's just something, it's just a quote that I have on my fridge.
mm.
That just sticks with me. It's like, okay, this is the life I want to lead, and um the type of work that I want to do, and just put goodness out there in the world.
I think I think it's a quote. It's so funny. I think I like had it on a sign when I was in college or something. But it's something like the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. I think it was an Eleanor Roosevelt quote, if I'm not mistaken. But I do think about that a lot. It's helped me, you know, I, I think when you're going through life, especially in this career, unfortunately, there's a lot of gatekeepers. And sometimes you just have to sort of take your life and your career in your own hands. And I think that's what Kody and I have done. We knew we wanted to be documentary filmmakers. We knew we wanted to be filmmakers, and we've just done it. Even though we were journalists and didn't necessarily have the background, we didn't go to filmmaking school. But life changes, dreams change, and when you believe in yourself, you can truly accomplish anything, right? You just have to put in the work. And so, um, yeah, I try to, even when am feeling down or like having imposter syndrome, I try to really believe in the beauty of my dreams and myself, and that helps push me forward.
Oh, I love those. Yeah. Um, yeah, so that was my final question for you. I've had the best time talking with you both, and yeah, I would love to have you back on whenever you want to come back.
Sure.
Of
Thank
course,
you,
we'd love to. Yeah,
Maya.
we'd love to be back on. Thanks, Maya.
This was really fun.
Thank you. Yeah, I've had the best time, and I just so appreciate your taking the time to join me today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, Maya. You too.
Thank you. And that's a wrap on today's edition of The Latest with Maya.